Think you've seen it all? Well, get ready because today I'm going to tell you the most unbelievable stories that have happened out there. And trust me, the last one is so funny, it feels like something straight out of a surreal comedy movie script. First up, we have a passenger who turned a flight into a runway show, but without clothes. Yes, you heard that right. Then there's a skateboarding bulldog who probably rides better than you do. And with more style, mind you. And if that's not enough, imagine sharing a flight with a passenger who's dead. That's right. Some people have lived through this experience and lived to tell the tale. Oh, and hold on, there's more. A honeymoon in the Maldives that turned into a real-life Titanic minus the violins playing in the background. And to top it all off, or should I say with ice cream, there's the unbelievable story of a 4-year-old boy who called the police because his mom ate his ice cream. Yes, he demanded justice, and he wasn't joking. Now tell me, how can you not be curious to hear the details of these stories? I guarantee each one will leave you speechless. The last one is the funniest of all, so sit back because the show is about to begin. First news of the day. Passenger causes chaos on flight by stripping and parading through the plane. Here's something no one expects when boarding a plane, having their flight turned into a fashion show. But without clothes. Yet that's exactly what happened on a Southwest Airlines flight from Houston to Phoenix. A passenger decided to put on a show, but not the kind you'd want to watch. The commotion began as the plane was taxiing for takeoff. Out of nowhere, this woman decided to strip completely and started screaming and jumping down the aisle as if she were at a rave. And that wasn't all. She even tried to break into the cockpit. Can you imagine the atmosphere? The crew, obviously unsure of how to handle the situation, had to make a quick decision, return to the gate and call the authorities. The passengers were caught between shock and disbelief. Some even recorded videos of the surreal scene because, let's face it, who would believe such a story without proof? According to reports, the woman was visibly out of control, shouting random things and even mentioning that she had bipolar disorder. In the end, she was escorted off the plane by police and taken to a neuropsychiatric center in Houston. Now here's the part that left many people outraged. Despite all the chaos, including a delay of over an hour, no charges were filed against her. This sparked indignation among passengers, especially since there were children on board who witnessed everything. One passenger even said she should be held accountable for the disruption. Southwest Airlines issued a very generic statement calling the incident a customer situation on board. But let's be honest, situation doesn't even begin to describe the level of chaos on our flight. So here's the question. How do you deal with such extreme situations? Meanwhile, the passengers on that flight will probably think twice before flying again. And you? Can you imagine being on a plane and experiencing something so surreal? Let's just hope your next trip is much calmer, or at least free of unexpected runway shows. Second news of the day, meet Chowder, the skateboarding bulldog taking over the internet. If you think you've seen it all online, get ready to meet Chowder, the bulldog who skateboards better than most humans out there, with over 1,600,000 followers on TikTok and videos racking up millions of views. This 9-year-old pup is the definition of radical. And it's not just because he's adorable, the guy's got real talent. According to his owners Jamie and Rich Del Perdang, Chowder isn't just a natural skater, he also has the typical personality of someone who lives life on wheels. When he messes up a trick, he gets mad, growls at the skateboard, and even flips it over in fits of rage. And if a session ends poorly, forget about any joy in the house, he stays sulky until the next day. Isn't that the classic drama of a skateboarder? But how was his talent discovered? Well, it all started when Chowder was just a puppy, and his owners noticed he had no patience for typical games like fetching toys. The big turning point came at a beach in Oregon, where he simply hijacked a child's skimboard and started gliding across the sand like he was born to do it. It was so impressive that even beachgoers stopped to watch. Since living far from the beach wasn't ideal, his owners decided to give him an old skateboard. At first, Chowder would just roll around lying down in the garage. But soon he got bored and started barking as if to say, I want more challenge. That's when Rich took him to a hill near their home. And guess what? On his very first attempt, Chowder was already standing on the board, carving turns and speeding down like a seasoned pro. Nowadays, Chowder owns no less than 20 boards, including 4 electric ones and even a unicycle. He's so obsessed with skateboards that he's been known to take some to bed. Who hasn't slept cuddling something they love? And if someone tells him, Chowder, you're getting a new skateboard today, you can bet he'll spend the whole day sitting by the door waiting. Of course, this passion comes at a price. Each skateboard costs around $200, while electric ones go over $1,000. In the beginning, Chowder used to destroy his boards in fits of rage. Who hasn't? But now he's more careful with his gear. Though still an avid skater, our furry friend is becoming more cautious with age. After all, 9 years for him is 63 in human years. He used to tackle any hill without hesitation. These days he weighs the risk before heading down. But one thing's for sure, Chowder remains the most radical dog on social media. So what about you? Would you dare race against this Bulldog? I'm already wondering if I can even stand on a board without falling. The third news of the day is spine-chilling. Ever thought about sharing a flight with a dead passenger? You know that uncomfortable feeling when the passenger next to you won't stop talking or hogs the entire armrest. Well, there's something worse. Realizing your seatmate might no longer be among the living. And believe it or not, this happens more often than you'd think. Recently, a couple flying with Qatar Airways had an experience straight out of a suspense movie. During the flight, a passenger passed away, and due to lack of space, the crew had to improvise. The result? The body was wrapped in a blanket and placed right near them for hours. Can you imagine the atmosphere? Ladies and gentlemen, fasten your seatbelts and try not to look to your side. Now, before you start canceling your upcoming trips, relax. Deaths on board are rare. According to studies, the odds of this happening are 1 in 200,000 flights. In other words, you're more likely to lose your luggage at baggage claim than witness something like this. But when it does happen, well, it's quite a challenge for the crew. Here's a macabre tidbit. Some of these deaths aren't entirely unexpected. Terminally ill patients sometimes choose to travel as their last wish, a sort of final ride before departing. Airlines even make prior arrangements with families to ensure the flight won't be diverted if something happens. Is it sensitive? Yes. But it's also quite a burden for those on board. When the unexpected occurs without warning, the crew springs into action. They're trained to handle these situations as respectfully as possible, because no one wants their flight to turn into an episode of CSI. Protocols include moving the body to a less visible area, if space allows, and ensuring it remains secure until landing. Then comes the bureaucratic part. Once the plane lands, it automatically becomes a crime scene until authorities conduct their investigations. Not everyone handles this well, though. In 2023, a British Airways passenger went viral after complaining on social media about witnessing a death during her flight and demanding a ticket refund. She claimed she was traumatized and spent sleepless nights after the incident. And honestly, her reaction is understandable, but it does raise the question, was she hoping for a voucher for her next trip? At the end of the day, deaths on board are rare, but raise important questions about how airlines manage these situations, with respect for the deceased and consideration for the well-being of other passengers. So what about you? How do you think you'd react if you were on such a flight? Would you stay calm or ask to switch seats immediately? Share your thoughts. Just hope your next trip is much calmer. Fourth news of the day. Honeymoon in the Maldives turns into a Hollywood-worthy survival story. You plan a honeymoon in the Maldives, dream of idyllic beaches, cocktails by the sea, and end up living a scene straight out of Titanic. That's exactly what happened to Brazilian Dr. Caio Gomes and his wife, Fernanda Diniz. What was supposed to be a romantic boat trip turned into a nightmare. It all started with a very big wave, Caio's own words, that rocked the boat they were on. And let's be honest, when someone says very big, you know trouble is coming. Despite the impact, the boat kept sailing for about 20 minutes, but then it began to slowly tilt to the right. And if there's one thing disaster movies have taught us, it's that slowly tilting is never a good sign. According to Caio, the crew didn't want to alarm anyone. The classic, let's not create panic. But instead of warning passengers that the boat was sinking, they simply told everyone to put on life jackets and jump into the water. Sounds calm, right? Not so much. Here comes the plot twist. The couple's life jackets didn't inflate. That's right. In the middle of a shipwreck, the newlyweds were left without flotation and had no idea what to do. But hold on, here's where the Titanic moment kicks in. While desperately swimming, they found a stray life jacket floating in the ocean and had to share it. Yes, very Jack and Rose style, except this time both survived. Sorry, Jack. After floating together, clinging to the life jacket for about 30 or 40 minutes, which probably felt like an eternity, another boat finally arrived to rescue them. No one was physically injured, but the psychological trauma was real. After all, it's not every day your honeymoon turns into a survival test. Oh, and there was one more victim of this shipwreck. The couple's backpack, which contained their passports. The result? They had to scramble to get help from the Brazilian embassy in Sri Lanka just to make it back home. Because nothing caps off an adventure like some international bureaucracy. In the end, the couple survived to tell their story, and will probably never want to hear the word boat again. And you? Can you imagine going through something like this on your honeymoon? If so, let's hope at least your life jackets work. Fifth and final news of the day. 4-year-old calls the police because his mom ate his ice cream and demands justice. Picture this. You're 4 years old, living your best life, and suddenly you find out that your ice cream has been eaten by your own mom. What do? Well, if you're anything like this little hero from Wisconsin, the answer is simple. You call 911 and demand justice. Yes, this really happened. The boy, outraged by the crime, grabbed the phone and dialed emergency services. And let's be clear, he wasn't joking around. During the call, he made it very clear that he wanted his mom arrested for stealing food. After all, in his mind, ice cream is sacred, and anyone who messes with it deserves jail time. The recording of the call is both hilarious and a little adorable. The 911 dispatcher tries to figure out what's going on. Dispatcher: what's the address of the emergency? Boy: my mom is being mean. Dispatcher: okay, what's happening? Boy: come get my mom, put her in jail. Meanwhile, the mom tries to explain the situation. He's calling because I ate his ice cream. And the boy, not missing a beat, doubles down. I just told the police to come get my mom and put her in jail. Leave me alone. Can you imagine the scene? The police officers arrived at the house, probably holding back laughter, and had a chat with the young defender of justice. In the end, he decided to forgive his mom, perhaps realizing she was still useful for making more ice cream appear in the house. But that's not where the story ends. The next day, the officers returned with a surprise, a brand new ice cream for the boy. Because, well, justice was served. So what about you? Have you ever wanted to call the police over something as serious as dessert theft? I bet this kid would think twice before letting anyone near the freezer again. Well, folks, the world is full of stories that are so unbelievable. It's hard to believe they're real, right? But now I want to hear from you. Which one of these was the most unbelievable? Or better yet, how would you react if you found yourself in the middle of one of these situations? Let me know in the comments because I'm curious to find out. And hey, if you enjoy these crazy stories and want to keep hearing about the most bizarre and funny things happening out there, you know what to do. Subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell so you don't miss anything, and share this video with that friend who loves a good surreal story. I'll see you in the next video. Or in the next crazy news story that comes up. Until then.